Welcome today to Etienne's Place. My name is David Etienne. Of course, today it is obvious that I'm just taking it easy, really taking it easy today. Can you believe it? That it is 94 degrees outdoors? 94 degrees. Man, it's hot. So, of course, I decided, I'm just going to take it very easy today. Just cool, easy, relaxed. You see, in my cap and thing. As a matter of fact, I decided to wear a cap today because I didn't get a chance to comb my hair. So, didn't get a chance to comb my hair, so I decided that I better wear a cap. So, just wearing my cap and taking it easy. Now, last week we looked at becoming a businessman, aspiring to be a businessman. And what in that discussion, I mentioned two things. I mentioned product life cycle and I mentioned business life cycle, just in passing. I got some feedback and I decided, okay, what I'll do is expand on those components and more so on the business life cycle. Because as I indicated then, your business really goes through various stages and phases. And in each of those phases, there are potential potential fallouts or things that you have to be very careful to look out for because those are what I call potential pitfalls and they occur at various points in that cycle, in that business cycle, or in the life of a typical business. The first phase we look at is what I refer to as a seed phase. The seed, SEED phase. Essentially, this is where you come up with this grand idea. You went to bed and you got this great vision, this dream. Your grandma came from wherever she is. She died 20 years ago, but she came back and she gave you this great revelation. And so you are now filled with enthusiasm. And so this great idea is in your head. And you say, yes, I think this is something that will work. And so we refer to this as a seed phase. Seed phase. Now, the potential fallout at the seed phase is that you should be aware that there's going to be significant challenges, significant effort that needs to be applied to transform this dream, this idea, this enthusiasm into what I refer to a realistic, sustainable business venture. Okay, so at the seed phase is when you're looking at converting, transforming your dreams, your visions, your aspirations, and hopefully not your nightmare into what is hopefully to be a sustainable business venture. So things work well, and you've passed through that seed phase, and so you're now ready to crank up the engine. And so we'll move from our seed phase into what is referred to as our startup phase. Okay, we've decided we're going forward, and so we're at the startup phase. Some of the challenges and some of the things that we need to look out for at the startup phase is really one, matching the perceived business opportunity with your personal skills and experience. Matching the perceived business opportunity with your personal skills and experience. Okay? A lot of time people go into business, just say, I want to get into the business, not realizing that they have no knowledge, no experience, no inclination, no background that will help them to succeed. So you need to match in that startup phase. You need to first and foremost assess and ensure that you can match up what I refer to as your personal skills and experiences to this perceived business opportunity. And of course, comes the biggie. Then you have to consider, okay, in this startup phase, funding, financing is going to be critical. And so I want to be looking now at the ways, the avenues through which I can access what is referred to as investment money, working capital, whatever you call it. Now, you may be fortunate enough, as I pointed out last week, to have some personal savings, some monies flowing in from inheritance, something from your retirement account, whatever. In a number of instances, though, you're going to have to seek some kind of funding. So, in that startup phase, we're talking about being able to access initial investment funds and also working capital. Okay, so we look at the seed phase, just a dream, just a vision. Then we move that into our startup phase where we have to match our abilities, our experiences, our background, maybe, expertise, skill level to that perceived opportunity. Then we have to seek as to the funding of this initiative, whether through personal funds or through borrowed capital. We move to the next phase. And remember now, I'm taking you through the normal, there'll be variations, but I'm taking you through the normal step-by-step phase, the phases of that business cycle from the time when it was just a thought, an idea in your head, taking it right through its entire life cycle. We move to the third phase. The third phase I refer to as a growth phase. So you have been able to acquire or to access the necessary funding, whether from personal funds or borrowed capital. You have adequate working capital. And so you're now going into business. And so naturally, you're going into your growth phase. Growth phase. Now, growth phase is to be approached very carefully. Because remember, at all times, you will be faced with a fundamental economic issue, and that is scarce resources, unlimited ones, meaning that you will always have a stock of resources to which that you could apply to various different alternative actions, alternative business, alternative plans. So the point is, with this limited stock of resources, you have to be very careful, very cautious. You have to ensure that you're well informed in terms of how you apply these limited resources to the needs of this growing business. Okay, growing business. Because remember, as I said earlier on, your resources are not infinite. Okay, and therefore the application, the utilization of these resources have to be undertaken in a very business savvy manner. That is where you're looking at with the growth phase. So you made the right decisions, business is growing, and so you come to what we refer to as the established phase. It's almost like the maturity phase. Business has grown, proper investment, proper cash flow management, scarce resources have been shrewdly applied, and so you have now grown and you're fully established, and you're just basically running on your momentum. You build up your client base, etc., and everything is going well. Established phase. Again, remember, we're looking at the potential pitfalls at each of the phases. Here is where complacency can creep in. So because you have grown and you're now a fully established business, you will find that you and so that drive, right? I like to call it that bulldog mentality you had in the early days of building this business, funding this business, getting this business to start to grow. As you move into that established phase where things are happening, and as I said before, the momentum is taking the business forward, then one of the potential pitfall is that as businessmen, we give in to complacency, thinking everything is dandy, everything is rosy. But remember, we are operating in a very fickle marketplace where the most fickle component, if I should classify it as that, are our consumers. So the consumers, the customers, the client base that you have today is no guarantee that that client base will be with you next year, because that you are subject to the whims and fancies of clients, and so complacency can be your greatest enemy at that point where you are established and running well. So during that phase, yes, that is when you're reaping a lot of the rewards, of your labor and your efforts and your sleepless nights. But be careful not to give in to what I call complacency. And remember that we operate in an environment that there are changes in business practices, there are changes in technology, etc., etc. So you need to keep up to date. You need to keep informed so that you are always relevant to the marketplace. So that is our established phase. Now, a lot of business will be, at that point for a year or two, and things are going well. And then the CEO or the board of directors or whatever say, you know what, we've been doing very well. I think we should consider some expansion. Things are going well. Why not, as it were, mine some more of the goodness that is coming your way? And so the decision may be taken to embark on what we refer to as an expansion phase. Expansion phase. Okay. Now, again, potential pitfall. Remember, when you're talking about expanding, it is possible for you to expand in your current market, or you may choose to enter new markets. It could be local, it could be overseas. Sometimes also expansion in your industry could be along what we call vertical lines or horizontal lines. So I'll give a good example. If you are into juices, let us say you were actually taking concentrated juice and then bottling it into consumable, bottles that we find on the supermarket shelf. Your expansion could be, for example, along the line where, you know what, I think we should be investing in an orchard, meaning let us invest in our own source of fruit, so we can then have our fruits, convert them into concentrate, and then onto the market. Or we could decide, let's expand, like a backward expansion, or we could say let's expand forward. Instead of just bottling it and giving it to the wholesalers, let us seek to put our products directly into the hands of retailers. Okay, so that's one thing. Or we could talk about vertical expansion, where we're saying, okay, instead of operating at this level of the market, we want to also, a good example is this. Let us say that you're a trucker. You're a trucker, long distance, cross states, trucking of freight. And you say, this is good, but I want to be in greater control of my business. So we're going to expand by going into the brokerage aspect of trucking. So instead of waiting on a broker to find me a load and call me and say, okay, David, here, go to here, pick up that there, I'm saying, yes, that is good, but I want to expand. And this is a vertical upward expansion where I'm moving from just being a trucker to being a broker, to also being a broker where I can now access, source, identify, and bid on my own loads, get them, and then use my trucks to transport them. So that's another, that's example of a decision to expand. So you talk about your expansion phase. And remember now, once you're expanding, especially if you're going into new markets, then not to do proper research, not to undertake proper study of your market, okay? And as I said before, doing the research, finding out about the nuances, the restrictions, limitations, the competition, etc., that exists in that market, then you're begging for trouble. So expansion is good, yes, that's how businesses grow, that's how industries thrive, but then that expansion ought to be approached in a very calculated manner where you get all your information, get the facts, get the facts. I like to say, get the facts, and then on the basis of the facts, you make what is hopefully the best decision. So that is our expansion phase. So we have grown, we have decided to expand, and we have expanded, and things are going well. And so this business, between the time when we had just a vision, just a dream, which was the seed phase, to the point where we have expanded operations, whether it be vertically, horizontally, whatever, we are now at that point. It may be like 10 years late. It's maybe 15 years late. But then we have now come to that point where we have a mature business. A mature business. Mature business. So I refer to that as a mature phase. Now, usually there are some things that are typical in the mature phase of a business. One, it is likely for you to find that you're having declining sales. Basically, the business is approaching the sunset of its life. So you'll find that you have been declining sales because maybe tastes and preferences have shifted, technology has changed, etc., and therefore, the big cell phone that people used to hold at their ears and muscle up to hold the cell phone is no longer something that people want. So if you're still into that kind of thing, then of course, yes, your business is matured, but then it is actually is actually creeping up to the sunset of its life. Okay, very important. So at that mature phase, you're likely to see declining sales, negative cash flows, profits will start to fall, etc. Now, the critical thing at this point is to make the decision as to whether or not it's time for another round of expansion, re-engineering, reinvestment, injection of a new capital stream to, as it were, crank up operation to take it out of that mature, declining sales, declining cash flow state. Should you inject new life into the business? Or is it time for you to consider whether you should be thinking of closing shop, so to speak? So you should have what I referred to last time as an exit strategy. And the question is this now the time for us to be contemplating injecting new life into this business, or think about our exit strategy from this business? Now, usually, once your business, your product, your service, whatever, becomes irrelevant by virtue of moving taste, moving preferences, moving technologies, then any new injection, any new investment ought to be focused on moving you and your business in those new directions. There's no need trying to throw additional investment, additional capital into the same old product. No, that is history. That is 20th century. So your investment, your additional capital injection ought to be geared towards propelling you out of this state into the new day, where that's the direction that the market is going. That's the direction where consumers are looking. And so if you're not, if that's not the focus, if that's not the aim, then you may wish to consider your exit strategy. Exit strategy. All right. Now, exit strategy that's exactly what it is. This is a strategy. It's not something that you just come into 2019 and say, oh, things are not happening, I need to jump on. No, some people do it like that, but it's not advisable. Exit strategy ought to be a part of your business plan. And so you ought to set some markers, some benchmarks, so to speak, that you will use to judge over time whether or not you are approaching that stage, that state where your exit strategy ought to be implemented, if you notice. So usually a well-planned exit strategy is one that will take 3-4 years, where you decide, okay, in year 1 of the 5 year, I'm going to be doing that. I'm going to maybe get a partner. I'm going to sell off part of the business. I'm going to, whatever the plan is, I'm going to reassign shares to my sons, to my estate. Whatever the decision is, it has to be an exit strategy that is properly planned, properly outlined. And so when you move in that, it must not be a knee-jerk reaction to some bad situation or to a declining market. But yes, it is triggered by a declining market, but then it's a plan, it's a strategy that you had already configured, and you're not just putting it into action. Okay, so that is where you have. Now, if the decision is to go the exit strategy, then you move now into that phase, which I refer to as the exit phase. So before I speak a little more on the exit phase, let's just kind of do a quick recap. So the dream is there, the vision is there, the aspiration, the excitement is there. And so we start off at the seed phase. Once we move from the seed phase, we say, okay, let's go for it. Let's convert the dream into a reality. And so we move now to our startup phase. Startup phase, all the things coming together, all the things are happening as planned. Then we have growth. Growth. Growth will lead us into an established business, holding its own, okay, controlling its segment of the market. Once we're there, then we can move now to our expansion phase, meaning, having been at that established phase for a while and things are going well, you may say, oh, we're doing very well. Maybe we should consider some sort of expansion. And we spoke about the expansion possibilities earlier on. Good. So you have expanded, things are going well, and then you reach that point where your business is mature. Matured in the sense that the products that you're offering, the services that you're offering, are acceptable. They have found their market. They have serviced their market. They have been getting the required rate of returns, and there's really nothing more to be had at this level. So you can decide, okay, is it time now to inject additional investment, inject additional capital to move it to the next level, or this is mature phase, or should I now be considering that, okay, yeah, it was a good run, but it's time now to close shop. And that is the decision that has to be made at that mature phase. As I said before, we come to the last point where, if at the mature phase, the decision is, okay, no new injection, let's consider exit. So we're now at the exit phase. And the exit phase, a question that arises is, should I close down the business or should I sell the business? Should I close or should I sell? Now, usually when one creates a business, work in the business over the many years, see it through its ups and downs, work day and night, build this business, you tend to have more than just a passing business relationship with this entity. You now have a person. It represents to you hard work, it represents to you years of labor. And so some degree of sentimental attachment is there. And so it's not just you business in a very hands-off way. It is more me, my business, us kind of thing. It's a member of the family. So when you come to that exit phase and the decision is to be made, should I sell or should I close down? It can be a little tug of war. The close down is where one feel that, oh, this is going to be the death of what I've created. And so there's a certain resistance to that. People are attached and people don't want to close down your business. This business has been around for the last 15 years. Everybody know Marston, Shop and thing. It's a name, it's a brand, you know. So to close down tend to be a little traumatic sometimes. So the alternative may be, okay, let us sell. Let us sell. By selling, there'll be continuity. It may not be yours, but of course, it will continue to have a life. It will continue to move forward. It will continue to be. This that you've created will continue to be. So sometimes, there's a little tug of war in the mind as to, hey, I'm now at that exit phase, but do I want to just close the doors, or should I contemplate selling to another so that the business continues? Okay. Now, if the decision is to sell, there comes another issue. That has to do with what we call the valuation of the business. Valuation of the business. Back to what I said earlier on. When an individual has built a business, worked in it night and day, know what kind of, I do call, both financial and sweat equity in this business, then the business end up being much more than just an operation. It becomes personal. It represents your life's work, your life's achievement. And so when it comes to selling this business, you cannot help but factor, at least in your mind, factor into the valuation of this business, that sentimental piece that you bring to the business. So there's something we call goodwill. And so you may say, yes, the physical assets, the equipment, the machinery, the furniture, the whatever, is valued at, excuse me, say for example, $10,000. But then you want to add an additional $2,000 to the value of the business, because you're thinking that, okay, man, there's a lot of value here, there's a lot of sweat and tears here, there's a lot of relationships built here, this is a well-known business, etc. And yes, there's an argument to be made for all of that non-monetary value, so to speak, which in business we usually refer to as goodwill. Okay, which has a value, carries a value, and in times of selling a business, that has to be factored. And even if you're not selling a business, even just valuing, business valuation does consider the aspect of goodwill. Okay, it's just that you as a business owner who have built this thing from a dream to what it is, tend to want to put a non-monetary goodwill value to this business that is way above what it really carries, but it's all a matter of you're bringing heart to business, and it's like oil and water, oil and water, heart and business don't quite go together. And so the whole issue of you having to accept the fact that what you can get on the market for this business is $10,000 and not $12,000, again, can be a little traumatic for you, because you're saying, "Whoa, this is much more value than just the desk and chairs and the machine, man. This has so much more value." But of course, you can't put a dollar sign on the value, because it's all in your head, it's all in your heart, it's all in your mind. And so that again can be an little traumatic situation where we are at the exit phase and we're contemplating selling as opposed to closing down the business, right? Good. So as I said last week, we looked at just the whole thing about making a decision to become a businessman, to get into your own business. And as I said, I'd mentioned this thing about business cycle and product cycle, and thought that what I would do is just to give you a brief overview of the life of a business. Typical, as I said before, businesses differ, circumstances will vary, but this is generally the pattern, the trend. Okay, so we go through the dream, hopefully not the nightmare, but the dream, the aspirations, the goals. And so that is what we call the seed phase. It's all in your head, it's all in your heart, it's all there in the sphere, whatever sphere that is. And then we now can take it to step two, which is to move the seed phase into what I call a startup phase. Startup phase transforms into a growth phase, which then moves into the established phase, transition into the expansion phase, then the mature phase. Once you're there, then comes that possible exit phase. And so that would have been the full cycle of the business. Now, most businesses, I wouldn't say most, but a lot of businesses, a lot of businesses go through these steps. It's just that quite often you find that once they are at the mature phase, this is where, especially when you have, businesses that have boards and shareholders, that is when they will really consider more injecting new life in the business so that it can continue as opposed to selling off, or as opposed to, I'm sorry, closing down. They may sell off, but there will be continuity to the business. Okay, good. So that's about it for today. Just giving a little tit thought on business life cycle. Again, I'm David Etienne, trying to keep cool in this 94-degree temperature. It's a beautiful day, very sunny and bright, but hot. So be careful, have a lot of fluid, keep out the sun as much as possible. The summer is on us, so as much as possible, try to get some relaxation and keep on doing what you're doing. Keep on doing what you're doing. I encourage you to, as usual, subscribe to my channel to be kept informed. Subscribe. Let me have your feedback. Let me have your comments. And do not hesitate. Do not hesitate. Do not hesitate to consult with those who are in the know. Very important. I said it many months back. I'm going to repeat it today. Clients come to me with some humongous problems. And when I look at the starting point, where this all came from, it saddens my heart to realize that had they only had just a little bit of information, had they received just a tidbit of pertinent advice, it could have saved them, it could have spared them from nightmares, trauma, stress, problems. And so when they're coming to me or to their other professional service providers, they are now way down the road in the quagmire of all kind of business problems, tax problems, whatever. And all of that could have been averted by a simple reaching out to someone just for a word of advice. So I encourage you, speak to others who are in the know. A lot of the time you don't really have to pay for consultation. You can just mention something to someone and just a simple feedback will kind of help you to be guided as to what's the better or the best direction in which to go. So thank you again for joining me. I'm David Etienne, Etienne's Place. Subscribe, keep talking, keep sending your feedback, and I'll see you in the coming week